second, please, or a couple of seconds, maybe three or four. It's been one of the very hectic mornings. Very busy, very busy. From the moment I woke up, it seemed like at 2, then 4. Yeah, seems like it's just been all the time. I don't know. Just can't sleep anymore. There's just a difficult time sleeping. So anyway, my storyboards. If y'all notice, listening to what I have to say all the time and being here, and I do appreciate you. It's my storyboard are kind of like, here's the board. It's white. It's a big piece of erasable plexiglass or something like that, a piece of glass, and I've got some dry erase markers on there. Block over here that says talk about this, block over there that says talk about this, and this is how they're all tied together down here at the bottom. Well, it starts out like that. It just kind of goes, brings in all kinds of different ideas. I hope it's entertaining at the very least. Somebody else told me that's what their storyboards look like too. It looks like whenever they write books and things. I'm thinking, whoa, that'll be interesting, right? Anyway, so how's your day been? I hope you had a good weekend. I hope you're rested, being respectful of yourself as well as those around you, even those who disagree with you. Yes, those too, especially those. Yeah, so that's what we have to do, right? We've got to find a way to get through to these people to show them that we're trying our best to be as respectful as possible, and it will just, that alone will shine a light on bad behavior otherwise. And that's the whole crux of it, is that, we neglect the fact that we're part of this human community, and there's no escaping that. We're here, they're here. They think differently than us. They believe differently than us. They have different ideologies and whatever, but that's fine. That's perfectly all right. Yeah, I talk a lot about this kind of thing. The thing I did really want to talk about today, though, was I do want to draw some comparisons here. And this is going to be a little bit challenging for some people to get on board with. But the thing I'm going after is this religious nationalism. Now, notice I didn't say Christian or Muslim or in Islam. I didn't say any of those things. I didn't say Hindu or whatever, Buddhist. I didn't say any of those things. And there are nationalists within each. Some are more virulent than others. Some have a more powerful push here and abroad. By that I mean they're everywhere, and they feel like you have an obligation to be everywhere. But Christian nationalism or Islam or whichever nationalism you adhere to, wherever you may be in this world, whether you're in Tehran or here in the United States, they have a lot of similarities and a lot of different things that are kind of pointing you what they're actually trying to do. Okay, so Khomeini, who is the Ayatollah Khomeini of Iran, has absolute control over the thinking and the operations and the effectiveness of the state of Iran. And he has appointed, or he has leaders who were ostensibly put in that position to make decisions regarding the state of the nation, but he has the authority any decision he disagrees with, and that is Shia theocracy. It's not just Islam, and it's not just Persian per se, but it's Shia. Persian's a little bit different. I hope y'all know that. That's the actual people who are there, right? Were there long before they became Shia Muslims. So that's what we're dealing with. There's a lot of this is where the Ayatollah can tell them he doesn't like that law, or we want to tighten up that law, or we want to bring people in who disagree with us. There'll be no one who is casting any aspersions upon our beliefs or our leadership here. And women must be covered up completely. I had to tell you can't see anything because men are so weak, obviously, that you got to cover up your women to prevent any kind of lascivious thoughts occurring to the men. And to me, that just speaks volumes. It does indeed. But that's what this kind of nationalism, this religious nationalism is. It's where you're foisting that religious view, that faith view upon the whole of the country, because you think you are entitled to do so because, you know, that's the way it is. And for your particular version of Islam, in this case, the Shia theocracy. And that's what we have in Iran, is a Shia theocracy. And I'm calling it Khomeiniism. And I think the term may have been used elsewhere by other people. I'm not quite sure. But Khomeiniism basically is Shia theocracy. And it is a theocratic fascist type of leadership where they tell everyone how to think and how to believe. And if you don't, they can punish you painfully if they disagree with you. But that's not all of Islam. That's just a portion of Islam, okay? Not all Islam or Muslims, not all Muslims believe that way. Not all Muslims are fanatics. Not all are going to throw you off a building if you're gay or transgender. As a matter of fact, in Pakistan, transgender people are, for the most part, revered in that particular faith system that's running in Pakistan. And I know this because I have actually encountered some people from Pakistan who were running a hotel one time that I had to interact with. And I introduced myself, and it became a matter of, yes, ma'am, I'm so glad to meet you, and wanted to grab my hand and shake my hand and all this kind of stuff. And it's a matter of reverence because they see it as a spiritual thing in their faith. And this is still Muslim. It's still Islam, but a different variety of it. Okay, there are 150 different versions of Islam around the world. The Shia theocracy that is in Iran under the Ayatollah Khomeini is one version, a very dangerous and potent one, that actually believes that if you don't believe them, they have a right to lie, cheat, and steal on you no matter what. That's written in the book, and they take it literally. I've read the Quran, have you? So anyway, it's like that particular version of Shia theocracy, Khomeiniism, is that. If you disagree, well, off with your head. If you show yourself, particularly women, in public, or you record yourself on a cell phone, they will, and you're Iranian, they will find you and put you in jail. And then the system is based on, the court system is based upon jurists that are following in the footsteps of and following the word of the Ayatollah Khomeini. So, off with your head or execute you. And then the trial is just, it's a sham of a trial, because all it does is relies upon the religious text and the interpretation of the Ayatollah. So why am I calling the Shia theocracy that is in Iran, let's say, Christian nationalism? Shia theocracy is a nationalist type belief system that believes they have every right to run that country as they see fit because they feel entitled to do so. Christian nationalists in Hungary under Viktor Orban, obviously, is something that that the United States kind of exported to them, because the people who are the foundational thinkers within Hungary come from places like, the Heritage Foundation here in the United States, as well as Alliance Defending Freedom, just to name two. They have their tentacles in Hungary. And that's what we're seeing from Viktor Orban, is a Christian nationalist type perspective. However, the people have basically said, we've had enough of you, but they don't have enough to get rid of him just yet, I don't think. I don't know what the current political atmosphere there is. I do know that during the Pride parade, he had outlawed Pride, outlawed LGBT stuff, outlawed it, and outlawed women and gender studies in his colleges and university systems there in Hungary. He was one of the first nations to do that, at the behest of people like those in the Heritage Foundation, Alliance Defending Freedom, and other Christian nationalist-based organizations from here in the United States. And lo and behold, to use a phrase some of you may recognize, lo and behold, we've exported our Christian nationalism into Russia as well. Where do you think? And I know Putin has always, he has never, well, if you know him as a KGB agent and a KGB person, you know that he's run the gamut of moral failings, to put it bluntly. So, and whether or not they're moral, he never thought of them as moral failings. He just thought of them as the way of life under the CCP, not under the CCP, but under the USSR, under communism. Okay, but he has outlawed LGBT stuff there, arresting people who publish anything. I think there was a paper, some editor at an organization in St. Petersburg recently charged with violating the statutes on publishing any information that has to do with LGBT people. Guess where thinking like that comes from? Here in the United States. We've exported our ignorance to the rest of the world, and they look at it and go, yeah, that's what the U.S. is doing. We don't like the U.S., but we'll go ahead and do it anyway. That makes sense. We're doing it in Uganda. The harsh LGBT, anti-LGBT strain that's running rampant across the leadership and the government of Uganda comes from an American evangelist who has been there pounding this in their heads for a number of years, getting them to write laws being LGBT people. You know who the pastor is? The televangelist, the big evangelist there doing stuff like that? Rick Warren. Many of you probably follow Rick Warren. Those are the people that are doing this around the world. They're exporting our bigotry and ignorance to the rest of the planet, thinking they have a right and responsibility to do so. Well, it doesn't stop there. They're all across Africa, all throughout. We've done the same thing in South Korea. And it's a persecution model. We're always under attack. No, you're not. At least not here in the United States. There are places around the world where you are, where you come into conflict with the extremist views of Islam, and then you have the extremist views of Christianity, and obviously you're going to have a conflict. Obviously. And then you're the one going out there and trying to in these countries that are Muslim or Islamic, and then complaining about being persecuted. Why don't you just live and let live? Come on, leave them alone. So anyway, it comes from here. Now, Christian nationalism in the United States. The Heritage Foundation is run by one, Kevin Roberts. Catholic, yes, but still the kind of Catholicism that is Opus Dei, like J.D. Bowman. You know who J.D. Bowman is? Vance. Vance was not on his original birth certificate. Now, y'all, come on. You got to get it right here. That's Vice President J.D. Bowman. If you're going to stick to this thing about that wasn't on your original birth certificate. No, I will respect the fact that he wants to be called, and he has legally changed his name to J.D. Vance. Fine. Do me that same honor. Christian nationalism here in the United States is all over the place. Alliance Defending Freedom, the Eagle Forum, which used to be Tea Party stuff. Let's see, the Heritage Foundation. Oh, you got the Family Research Council, originally founded by Dobson. I've met a couple of the leaders from there. They didn't particularly enjoy my comments because I was sitting by their executive director in Alabama one time at the State House, and I saw that he was sitting right beside me. I mean, literally right beside me at a hearing. And he didn't know me, but I knew who he was, obviously. But because he had put his name was on the stuff, and it says it said what I call it a minute ago, Family Research Council, FRC. And I asked him what his name was and all this kind of stuff. And I had a bouquet of flowers with me that I was going to put up there on the stand in front of the committee members as a kind of like a memorial, talking about the impact of what this committee was going to do on transgender people there in the state of Alabama, and that it would be harmful and dangerous. But they weren't going to pay attention to me. They already decided what they want to do. The public forum, the public conversation part, that was just a formality. They have to do it to abide by the law, but they already know what the vote's going to be. So they're just kind of trying to appease the public. That's all they're doing with those kind of things. You have a public hearing, and they just want to see if you got a lot of people out there who support or oppose you, and they give you a chance to sound off, and then they go do what they want to do anyway. But anyway, so this person was sitting there from Family Research Council and executive. I think one of the executives of it wasn't the executive director, I don't think, but it was definitely an executive. He was. So I said, here, would you take this to, and for life of me, I can't remember the guy's name who is the person, the president, CEO right now of Family Research Council. But I said, here, take this to him and tell him it's from me, Cassandra Williamson. You know, I'm a transgender person who happens to be a veteran and a parent and a grandparent. So take it to him and let him have it and sit it on his desk. You know, you can do that. And he goes, well, I would, but I can't get it on the plane. He wasn't going to. But anyway, these are the Christian nationalists, folks. They're not the only ones. There's a lot of them all around this country. And for the most part, it is that they have become so intertwined with the far right element, political ideologies in the country that are the extremists out there on that side. They're the left extremists too, don't get me wrong. Extremists all around, everywhere. The problem is you got to figure out how to deal with them, right? But they're all blending together now. This Christian nationalism variety that's running through the United States, it seeks to install someone, or at least have a group over the United States that makes decisions as to the importance of whatever the president, vice president, the council, you know, the Congress, you know, House of Representatives, the Senate are doing. And they'll say, yeah, that's a good thing. We'll do that. But we need you to do this over here on this side. They want to be able to set that kind of leadership over the United States, just like Shia theocracy is in Iran. That's what they want to do, folks. And it's an affront to every freedom-loving American in this country. And I don't care. I'm not talking about whether you're gay or lesbian or trans or bisexual or intersex or any of those things. I'm not talking just about that. That definitely would be a target. We all know that. All you have to do is look around the world and see what they've done other places. They want the same thing here. They wanted that for a long time. They would. For a second. Dun, dun, dun. We're back now. I'm unfroze. So anyway, that they want to roll back Obergefell, which gave a right to marry for gays and lesbian people and LGBT people. They want to roll that back because that's what they've been trying to do everywhere else, in Hungary and Uganda and in Russia and you name it. Wherever American fundamentalist Christians go, you will find that to be the case. Minorities suppressed. They talk of it in terms of restoring the principles of the Constitution, but that's not really what it's about, folks. They want to have that agency over the whole government of the United States so that they can dictate to them whether or not they're doing something that's biblical or not. They want to be the sole interpreters of the Bible and apply it to the United States from the top down, like the Ayatollah Khomeini in Iran. But the problem with that is there are 45,000 different recognized denominations in Christianity. And that says nothing about the multiple different interpretations of the Jewish faith. Nothing at all about the different interpretations of the Vedic literature that resulted in Hinduism and Buddhist and all of those kind of things there in India. And they have a population of 1 billion people. You can well imagine that there are thousands of different ways to interpret the Vedic literature. But what about that here in the United States? We're supposed to have religious freedom and freedom from religion. Those two are synonymous here in this country. Okay? And let me just be very clear. I grew up in a Southern Baptist church at Forest Hills, Kentucky. I also attended a church with my dad, the Assembly of God Church. Get up, run around, stuff like that, that one. And I also spent 6.5 years in Texas working for Kenneth and Gloria Copeland. I've led prayer services there, laid hands on people, prayed over them, spoken tongues with them. I know about the Christian nationalist strain, and I know about the prosperity gospel that Kenneth and Gloria preach. They're good people, by the way. At heart, they're still good people, and people who try to attack them as being bad people, I'll tell you, you're wrong. They're good people. They really are good people. But they're just one of, like I said, 45,000 different ways to interpret Christianity and to act upon it. Okay? So, but their strain was Christian nationalism. They believed they have the right and obligation and responsibility to guide this nation from the top, the highest echelons, over the president, vice president, over all of it. That's what they believe, folks. And that's just what I learned there. There are so many other varieties of that. There's Christian dominionism. You know anybody who's along those lines? Let's go with Pete Hegseth. Doug Wilson, his not protege, but his spiritual advisor, I guess you would say. His pastor from Doug Wilson's not his pastor from Tennessee, but he is the founding member of that particular strain of Christian dominionism. Every time a preacher comes along in Christianity, he or she or they think that they're the only ones who have the word down for all of us to follow. And they'll back it up with all kinds of stuff. They'll say one thing and this and that and the other. And all I can think about is, Shia theocracy and the different versions of Islam around the world. Some peaceful, some not peaceful. Some outright, some out to destroy Israel simply because, they're supposed to be the children of God. And they think that they haven't followed that. So they want to punish them. They think they have a right to destroy Israel because they were the chosen ones and they turned their back on it. Yes. That's where it comes from. A strict interpretation. And strict interpretations also are the foundations for these Christian nationalists and Christian dominionists here in the United States who are spreading their tentacles around the world into Uganda and Hungary and Brazil, or trying to down there. I think they probably did. But let me see. All throughout Africa and Russia and South Korea. Live and let live, folks. Live and let live. So how do you fight this kind of thing? What's the way forward? Well, the arc of history says and shows very clearly, these things shall pass. And they do. Under the Trump administration, we've seen the strongest effort, this most virulent effort and energy put into doing this across the whole of the country. I don't think that this is actually who Trump is. Trump's just a power-hungry person. He's a con man who's won over a lot of people just because of his silvery tongue and his golden palace. But Trump could care less about all that, but he did find a way to appeal to them and got them on his side, brought in J.D. Vance, who is Opus Dei. Got them to bring in people like Pete Hegseth. These people have one goal in mind, and that is the subjugation of the entire apparatus of the United States of America and every state in it to the will of the Christian dominionist and Christian nationalist running the country or trying to run the country. It's up to us to find a way to stop it. Now, how can you stop it? But one thing is you got to be willing to entertain the possibility that, they have something good to say, that there's something that could be said from their side. Yeah, I know it sounds like there's probably not, but we still have to be able to hear them. We still have to be able to talk to them. We still have to be able to say, what is it that you actually mean? And why do you want to do that? And what about the rest of us who don't think like you do? But yet you still claim that you are wanting to have ideological diversity, but when it comes right down to it, that's not what you're doing. You are imposing your particular religious ideology on the whole of the country from the top down. You want to see the United States like Uganda. You want to see the United States run like Viktor Orban had been doing in Hungary. You want to see the United States do what Putin has done with minorities in his country. Come back at 6 and we'll talk some more. Feel free to jump in anytime you want. Have a good one.